Well, Happy New Year. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate AI Flash, the show where AI goes from hype to habit. I'm your host, Rajeev Sajja. Each week, we make AI approachable and actionable for real estate professionals who want to stay ahead of the curve. From lead generation to listing presentations, from marketing strategy to client experiences, you'll hear how top agents and industry leaders are using AI to work smarter, save time, and grow their business. In this New Year's Day episode, I speak with Chris Smith, who outlines his top strategies for agents to embrace AI and how he's doubling his productivity and quality with AI. Let's get into it. This episode with Chris. My guest today on the New Year's Day episode, I can't think of a better guest to have, is Chris Smith, the co-founder of Curator, an Inc. 500 fastest growing business, and a USA Today best-selling author, recognized by the American Marketing Association as one of the 4 best marketers under 40. Chris is the mind behind the Conversion Code, a blueprint for growth that is now taught at universities like Johns Hopkins and NYU. He's also used the same strategies in his book to bootstrap his own company to 8 figures in annual recurring revenue. And he's featured in Forbes, Fortune Magazine, and Adweek. And he's also the co-author of Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see this as well. Welcome, Chris, to the podcast.
What's up, my man? Good to see you. Great to be back with you.
Yeah, good to be seen. And we're going to get into all things Chris is doing. And I'm part of a conversion club that he organizes for teaching AI and cutting-edge strategies. Forget AI for a second. You should follow Chris on Instagram because he is a big proponent of the value the agents bring, and you can literally lift and shift and use some of the materials he posts there. So he's a huge follower. We're going to include all that stuff in the show notes. But Chris, when I thought of you to have you on the podcast, you know, you're I almost first saw you at Inman, I think, predating when we first met in person. When you were doing, you did an MC thing for Inman, you had a role there and as an ambassador, I forget. But you've come a long way in your influence on the industry with all of the things you're doing. And obviously this is an AI podcast. So I'm going to have you sort of give a little, to our audience, talk a little bit about how you got into real estate and bring us to today.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Inman was a fun journey. I was the chief evangelist. I was the MC of Real Estate Connect, and great experience working with Brad was really an honor. You know, I've always been on the tech side, so I've never, you know, I came into the industry on the software side.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people are realtors and then, you know, they go into coaching, but I've never been a realtor. I don't want to be a realtor. I think it's one of the hardest jobs ever. You know, the work-life balance, the growing pains, the dependency upon market conditions. Like I sympathize with agents for sure. But my start was with actually Quicken Loans.
Oh yeah.
The largest internet lender, and now it's of course called Rocket Mortgage. But when I was there, it was called Quicken, and so we were doing, you know, loans over the phone at a call center in Cleveland with people that, you know, clicked on an ad on Yahoo, and then next thing you know, like their phone was ringing and it was me. And so I learned so much about, you know, generating leads, converting leads. It was basically a big boiler room. And that experience on my resume, I ended up getting headhunted by a company called Top Producer.
Oh yeah.
And Top Producer was, you know, the sales force of real estate. It was the CRM, you know, the way today maybe Follow Up Boss is kind of the status quo. Top Producer was everywhere. You know, it seemed like every realtor had Top Producer. And it was owned by Realtor.com. So my first sort of in the trenches, in the offices, at the hotel trainings, at the trade shows came through Top Producer. And I still remember, like, I would go in and I would be there to do a class. You know, I was a teacher. And I would go in because so many people already had Top Producer. So we would go to the offices and we would train the agents on how to use it. And then we had additional products that we could upsell at the end. And the version that came out was actually really interesting timing because it was called 8i. and the I was internet. And it was actually the first version that was in the browser. All the other versions had been desktop apps.
Yeah.
You got a disk, you loaded it, and it was so clear to someone that wasn't, jaded, that this eighth version was like way better than any of the other versions. But when you're used to using something, there's a great quote that says people get used to using your shitty software. Like, people were used to version 7.
Yeah.
And version 8 was such a change that was my life for 3 years, was just helping people with that change management. But what I learned was, like, realtors were wrong about technology. They were wrong that BlackBerry was going to be the phone, and the Internet Explorer was going to be the browser, and that PCs and Dell computers were going to be the laptops, and that Facebook was stupid, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
And so I just realized, like, man, these guys need a lot of help with everything. And so I started a blog called Tech Savvy Agent, and it blew up. And it was like started as kind of a cult following. And then it's just that as the industry has caught up, I've been sort of right a lot. I worked with Dotloop, I founded Curator. Now I'm working on Ella and Beacon and a product called Air. Everything's AI now. So yeah, man, I love technology, marketing, and sales, and I love teaching people how to use it. And I know my people. I know my audience really well, and so I'm able to kind of teach it in a way that they feel empowered, not just impressed.
100%. You do a great job with that. So kudos to you as well. So what was your first light bulb moment with generative AI? Like, I know it's interesting. We just celebrated 3 years of ChatGPT. It seems like a decade in technology, like normal technology. It's just like the speed of evolution. But what was your first oh shit, this is going to be big kind of moment?
Yeah, it was the first prompt I ever ran.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember what I said specifically, but it was something like, can you write a description about a listing? Here's the details. And I remember the epiphany that I had was like, this is better than 90% of what's out there. On the first prompt, no one even knew what prompts were. There was no prompting. There was no prompt engineering.
Yeah.
There was no Claude. There was no Gemini. It was just like I'm a writer. I have 4 books, and I'm a good writer. And I was like, man, this is better copy than what most people can do on their own. So from there, it was just like, I try to tell people, Rajeev, you got to get an early win.
Yeah.
You got to get a win. And when you get a win, then you're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So for me, the first win was just like, I know that this is better than what most realtors write. Now, fast forward 3 years, like you said, listing descriptions written by AI get 200% more inquiries than listing descriptions written by humans. Listing descriptions written by AI sell properties 15 to 20% faster, because obviously the more inquiries you get, the quicker the property sells. So yeah, it's been a crazy journey, and I've tried all of it. Higgs field. You know what I mean? Like, no one knows what that is when you're listening to this. Like, I'm using Higgs field. I was using Midjourney when you had to use Discord to create.
Yeah, that was tough. Yeah, for most people. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was just neck deep in it. And I actually just read a study from MIT. 95% of people say that the AI has been a failure and that there's no ROI.
That's just.
And I'm just like, oh my God, this is that TikTok moment. This is that Facebook moment. This is that moment where people say, why would anybody care about what I'm eating? This is that moment when people say, I don't dance, I'm not going to use TikTok.
Yeah.
And time again, people are just wrong, and they put a line in the sand and they stand on the right side. And it's like, you're not on the right side of history here, especially with AI. I mean, this is more important from a practical perspective than mobile, social, websites, like all of that stuff combined. The practicality the ability to execute. You mentioned some of my Instagram content that's like incredibly shareable. Well, I figured that out by having AI analyze all my content. I had it read all my newsletters. I had it look at all my tweets, and I had it tell me what performs best. And then I said, well, give me more stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think part of it is just being open-minded. That's one of the phrases in the Exactly What to Say book is most people consider themselves open-minded, but then they're not actually in the real world. Yeah.
For sure. No, that's a great segue into. I mean, when ChatGPT first launched, this, Chris, it was a text-to-text kind of prompt, and then they write back. Now it's like multimodal. Like, I mean, from images to video to text to video to text to images. And the recent Gemini 3 and Nano Banana Pro, I'm working on like a prompt guide for Nano. I mean, it is unreal, right? I mean, the stuff you can create. Fun
It
story.
is unreal.
What I take the transcript from my podcast, Chris, and I give it to Nano Banana and I give the picture of the speaker in the podcast, and I say, give me an infographic of the key takeaways of the podcast, and it kills it. It kills it. So there's so many applications to this. Let's dig into it, right? Because our listeners are primarily agents at various levels of AI adoption. And you've obviously dug in knee deep, and you still do with a variety of things, and you touched on some of these things. If an agent is using ChatGPT at some level regularly, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, put all of them in the same bucket. Let's come up with some specific AI use cases that will shave time off, produce better quality content on the output, and give them time back. I always tell people, like the whole goal of AI for most agents is to automate the ordinary so you can do more of the people thing, personalize the extraordinary. So let's get into some specific use cases that you feel are going to benefit agents, and start where you want to start.
Yeah, I would say, it really is important to do what you just said. Like if I were listening to this and I was like, okay, I want to be in that 5% that's crushing it, I'm a believer, right? It's like, okay, well, where you should start is you should sit down with your team or with yourself, and you should get a pen and paper, and you should come up with a plan of what you're going to use it for. Because I think what happens a lot is people put their toe in and they go in and they say, hey, write me a listing description. And then they go in and they say, write me an email. And then they go in and they say, write me some tweets or design me some graphics. And that's not how this works. You have to have a nail before you have a hammer, right? So I think people are like running around with a hammer looking for nails. And it's like, no, establish what the nails are. So I think everybody that's a real estate agent, brokerage, right? Start with your listings. Start with your listings. Use AI to write better listing descriptions, to write better copy for emails about listings. Like I did a class yesterday where you can go in and say, hey, I have a listing coming to the market at, 123 Main Street, and I want to create, a 10 list checklist for people that would be thinking about buying that home, that don't know the area.
Yeah.
And it will create this amazing experience that a lot of times we take for granted. One of my favorite tips is like, this is a crazy cool one, but you can actually take a photo. So everybody listening to this is probably getting professional photos done. You can actually take a picture. You mentioned multimodal.
Yeah.
For normal people, what does that mean? It just means that the AI can see, hear, and type, right? So what I'll do is I'll take a listing photo, and I'll give it to ChatGPT and say, write compelling copy about this picture. And it'll say, oh, on a tree-lined street in the bask of sunset. Like it's amazing. Like each individual photo can create a story and a narrative. So I think, number one, marketing and promoting your listings using AI. Number two, creating content that's about like our buddy Matthew Shadbolt used to say, beyond the four walls of the home.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
That would be things like the area stuff, proximity to this, like, and then, I'm bullish on, the fact that AI can save time. So, like, what I've done is I've gotten so much time back that the quality and quantity of my output has gone up.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm a cyborg now. I've always worked hard. I've always put in a lot of time. People have always said, like, man, you're an alien. Like, what the heck? Like, do you ever sleep? How do you know all this stuff? How do you learn all this stuff? So I've always been busy.
Yeah.
But now I'm so productive, not just busy, that it feels like there's two of me. Feels like there's three of me, which is a great feeling. So the other use case that I'm obviously bullish on is like communication with your clients.
Yeah.
Like when we studied how realtors keep in touch with sellers while their home is on the market, it's a laborious process, but it's a big problem. Like the number one complaint is I have no idea what my realtor's doing. Like people should do this. This is actually a fun experiment. I'm going to do it in the next tab while we're talking. Okay, I'm going to go to Google. And you know how Google tries to predict what you're going to type.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm typing in my realtor is, okay, and then it auto fills the rest. Here's what it says: not responsive, not working for me, not selling my house, not doing her job. Like that is what Google thinks I'm like. That's the perception of our industry, and so when we created Beacon, which is AI-powered seller reports, we didn't try to recreate the wheel. We didn't try to come up with a new category. We said, how can we take something that takes 90 minutes and make it take 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Because that's really the biggest value, I think, of AI is the time that it saves.
100%. Collapsing time. And to your point, the Google search you just did, and Google's digesting all the data, and it tells that's what consumers are actually searching for. It's not
I know.
it's predicting it obviously, but it's data prediction. So
Yeah.
So we'll put a link to Beacon in the show notes for those of you that are interested to learn more about Beacon. And that was going to be one of my questions. So one of the other things listeners should sign up for is the Chris's List, your newsletter. So I get it. It's so
Thank
well
you.
written, and I know you're using AI heavily to really elevate the output and what comes in Chris's List. And to your point, Chris, there's a lot of agents that do send newsletters that I barely open because they're just like newsletter hell. Like it's just like,
Yeah.
right? So
Generic.
maybe take that example of how you're leveraging Chris's List for agents that are listening to elevate their output of what they're putting out for newsletters, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I would have never committed to a weekly email newsletter without the help of AI.
Yeah.
I would have never, I would have been like everybody else, had the best intentions, fallen off. Like, you mentioned that you have 100 podcasts. Most people have like 4, and then they're like, I'm not going to do a podcast.
Yeah.
So that's what you're really trying to do, is trying to break through and make it a habit, James Clear, Atomic Habit style. So I think that what a lot of people don't realize is how much time you can save and how good AI is at research.
Yeah.
Because, I've got a bunch of Chris lists that I wrote before AI. Like, I never used AI for like the first, 50 issues. And I'm like, I'm going to take these and give it to AI and then just see if it can help me. So I would say that like finding A+ content to then copy, give the AI, have it summarize it, have it apply your brand voice, your brand tone, your vibe, right? That is such an unlock. And you can use ChatGPT, but I find like Perplexity is really good at this, because Perplexity is really just meant to find links to sources. Yeah. Half the time with ChatGPT, it gives me links that aren't even real.
Yeah, makes
like
sense.
it hallucinates, right? And it'll give me a link and I'll be like, oh, that's a cool story. And then it's like a 404 error page. And it's like, hey, did you make that up? Yeah, sorry. I just invented that. Like, hold on. But what I've done is I've trained custom GPTs to find the kind of content for each section. So I'll say, give me 5 ideas for the content section. The chrysalis is CHRIS. Well, content is actually wild, crazy stories, and the whole point of that is like, holy shit, like I can't believe that's real. And then H is how to, and R is research, and I is inspiration, and S is swipes or stats.
Yeah.
So within each of those five, I just need one good source.
Yeah.
And once I find the source, bringing that into the AI, having it summarize it, that part it's great at. So I would just say like link finding, like, and I have Feedly, like I still use other stuff. I don't just use AI. I have Feedly, which is, old school RSS feed of all the best websites and blogs. I have a Google Doc called Chrysalis Sources, and it's like Inman, Housing Wire, it's all the realestatenews.com, it's all the credible sources. But the beauty of newsletters nowadays is a huge shift, is that you don't have to be the creator of the content that's featured in the newsletter.
Yeah.
When I first started blogging, you would never send an email that linked to someone else's stuff. So just by nature, if you didn't create something on your blog or a video, you would never send an email. Well, now companies like Morning Brew, companies like The Hustle, Axios, these companies are amazing. They have amazing newsletters because they curate. They don't try to publish every article themselves. So it kind of took the combination of AI and just kind of the mindset shift of like, to keep up, you can't create everything yourself.
100%. And we live in a world where there's information overload. People are looking for good curated content, and then the attention economy, and you sort of bridge that, and AI powers it for you.
Well, and they want your opinion too. Like, people don't want vanilla.
Yeah.
People want, like, every time I summarize anything, turns the corner. How does this matter to a realtor?
Yeah.
How do I feel about this? What do I think about this? People don't care about the market stats. And a good example would be the news, right? The news is now your opinion about the news, people's opinions about the news. It's not the news.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of realtors are still kind of like doing it like the old news, which is like, here's a listing, here's market stats. It's like, no, it's the opinion business now.
Yeah.
It's like having a world view, like Mark Davison says.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. You mentioned Beacon a little bit, and I want to kind of get into AI literacy, which you've sort of committed to with the Conversion Club. And I feel like everyone can dedicate a few minutes with a strategy, to your point, to do more with AI. And the only reason you and I are sort of talking about AI is because we've just had way too many light bulb moments to know what's possible. So I think agents that are coming along. So when I started the podcast, I wanted to make AI approachable and actionable. So it's not like this big thing that nobody can tackle. It's like start small and kind of be in a better place in 2027 than in 2026 with AI. Can you talk a little bit about Conversion Club and the value you offer? And we'll put a link to all this stuff in the show notes, by the way.
Yeah, like most of the content online that does really good is lightweight. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, they're all meant to be lightweight, one and done type stuff. But I like teaching in-depth, long form. That's my preferred style. But what I realized is, like, I was trying to put like a square peg in a round hole, and I was trying to teach through social. And I'm like, you know what? Webinars and newsletters are much better for going deeper.
100%. Yeah.
So the Chrysalis and the Conversion Club, that's where I can still scratch that itch of the main differentiator is every single workshop is 2 to 3 hours. Like, these are long, in-depth. The other thing I would say is it's 201, 301 level. It's not freshman year AI. I'm teaching advanced topics, beginner stuff too, but like the AI stuff that we cover. So anyway, it's the best people in the industry. So if you were to say, who's the best person for brand, who's the best at getting listings, who's the best at Instagram, like, TikTok, I think a lot of people would say Glenda Baker
Yeah.
is sort of the queen of TikTok. Well, in the Conversion Club, she teaches TikTok.
Yeah.
You know, Jimmy teaches how to get listings.
Yeah.
Jason Cassidy teaches Instagram. Mark Davison teaches brand. So it's kind of like me and my friends
Yeah.
going super deep on really exciting topics: Facebook ads, inside sales, vertical videos. And it really is a master's in marketing and sales that you kind of are getting. And it's really practical and actionable. And that's probably the biggest thing about AI that's helped me as a teacher is now, instead of somebody taking notes and then going back and, you know, having a Google Doc and like a blinking cursor, now about 90% of the advice I give is actually a prompt that they can just copy, paste, go. And that is a game changer. And obviously, like, they might have to change like the name of the city or the name of the zip code, or the, you know, they have to customize it a little bit, but it's really swipe and steal. And even with Ella, my email marketing company, the ability to write a hyper local newsletter at a price that's affordable at scale, could have never done that without AI.
Yeah.
You know, we used to at Curator, you know, we had 500 teams. We'd give them an email and they'd all send it. And we had to do like exclusivity because we didn't want to overlap. Well, nowadays, the ability to hyper local and personalize ideas is crazy easy.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be one other thing I would do. Like if I would give people an action item, it would be like use tools like Answer the Public. I'm sure you're familiar with that Neil Patel's tool. Use tools like Spark Toro, which is Rand Fishkin's company. You know, figure out, and even YouTube, like go to the most popular YouTube channel in your city, or just do a search like fun facts about Orlando, and kind of reverse engineer what is insanely popular, and then you create your sort of brand voice, opinionated version of that. And you mentioned, you know, Google with what they're doing with AI. Notebook
LM. Massive.
Man, like this is a pro tip for learning. Like you were mentioned earlier, you'll have it summarize it or whatever. You know, I'll take a YouTube video that's a 2 or 3 hour master class on something, just kind of like the stuff I teach. I'll throw it in Notebook and I'll have it do the AI podcast version of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like two people that are not real, that sound so real.
100%.
They literally do a podcast about the video that I gave them, and now I can walk around the neighborhood and listen and learn versus having to be, you know, sitting at a screen. It's wild. So, yeah, man, I'm guessing the people listening or watching this are sort of excited and bought in. I don't think we're, you know, maybe we're preaching to the choir, but for anybody that's sort of teetering, like, just go all in, be excited, get those quick wins.
Yeah, for sure. And before I get to the final two questions, you talked about the AI podcast. I had Amit Buddha from Compass, he's in Miami. So he takes, he's hyper local content for neighborhoods. So he adds it to Notebook LM, and he's done 400 AI podcasts, not like what we're doing here live, exactly taking the podcast version from Notebook LM, and he's sort of built a whole channel around it, like literally.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
It's crazy. And yeah, Amit's a great guy. He's an early adopter. We actually work with him at Ella, and we do the hyperlocal newsletter for him. But he has another virtual assistant that pumps out content. So he's going back and saying, well, I got all these neighborhood guides. I got all these best places to eat, best places to shop, you know, best places to live. And now he can literally just take all the long form written stuff and in, you know, 5 minutes convert it to an audio pod. And like, I'm even experimenting with stuff like 11 Labs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where, and like Hey Jen, like for people that want to really get geeky, you know, those types of platforms, like not only can you do the podcast, you can do it in your voice.
Yeah.
Like you upload your audio to
We'll
them, and then
include a
anything
link
that
in.
you
We'll
type.
include a link to Chris's Instagram. He did a video which was a Hey Gen and Levin Lab video that got a ton of views. That just sort of, and
Yeah.
I think that's a good example of what this reference that
Mhm.
Chris is talking about. Chris, you and I can shoot the breeze for hours, man, on this stuff, but we need to wind down.
Mhm.
I know you have a hard stop. So there's a couple of questions I want to finish with that I ask all my guests. Whether it's
Sure.
AI or not, what is the one piece of advice you'd give your younger self if you were starting in the real estate business today?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is I would go find a mentor
Yeah.
and I would work under them.
Yeah.
So I would either go to the number one brokerage, ideally like the number one team at the number one brokerage, and I would learn the ropes.
Yeah.
Like you got to be able to do the basics really well, or else none of this fun stuff we're talking about, like you're going to already be out of business,
Yeah.
by the time you get around to it. And then what I would do is I would say, okay, what can my jelly be for their peanut butter?
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, most of the top teams and agents, they don't have a great TikTok, channel. They don't have a great YouTube channel. They don't do reels. Like, so I would basically say, hey, I don't just want to show your listings. I don't want to just sit at your open houses for you. Like, I want to do that too. But I will become the media company on the team. And I will take your assets, which are listings, and then I will create content through my brand to promote them because the listing agent doesn't care.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially if you're on their team,
Yeah.
they're getting paid and you're helping them. So when you see like somebody like Brad McCullum up in Calgary,
Yeah.
he became the number one luxury agent in his market in 2 years just because his YouTube videos were that good. They weren't even his listings.
Yeah.
Brianna in Tampa, I think her account is like Tampa Bree. She does more like crude humor, like really funny videos. Those are not her listings. Joe Herrera, Facebook ad, guru. We thought he had 1 million listings. He's like, Chris, I just get permission from the listing agent to promote it, and I know which listings get the most clicks, so I know which ones to ask permission for. So I think there's a huge opportunity to sort of like, because I would want to do both. Like, I want to know my shit. I want to have a sharp axe. I want to know the basics. Like, I need to know how to write a contract. I need to know how to negotiate. I need to know how to counter an offer. I need to know what escrow is. Like, so I would want to work with an agent that had that stuff dialed in. But then I would probably try to find one that didn't have the digital marketing stuff dialed in. So then I could feel really useful to them.
Yeah. 100%. Great advice. Great advice. Can't think of a better person to kick off 2026, New Year's Day.
That's right. Yes.
And I think 2026 is going to be a huge unlock for a lot of agents that are leaning in. And I think we're going to grow that 5% to a bigger number, hopefully, with all the
Yes.
tips that Chris has shared and the industry influence that he has. So, Chris, thanks, man. Appreciate you, and I hope to see
No
you in real life
problem.
real soon.
It's been great, man. Thanks for having me on.
If you found value in this episode, follow the show so you're notified every Wednesday when new episodes drop. Share it with someone in the industry that can benefit from it, and leave us a review as it helps us reach more professionals like you. Next week, we speak with Michael Perna of EXP, who shares the strategies to drive leads with AI search.